Good morning, good afternoon. I am honored and lucky enough to be joined today by the awesome artist, Tom Yu. You've probably seen some of his work in the background on our Black Dove before. Pio, when he was part of Nifty Culture, did an interview, and we're lucky enough to have you back. Tom, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here for sure.
Yeah, no, we're super appreciative of you spending a little bit of time with us. We've got this big drop coming up in 2 days, and we'll get to that in a few moments. When I saw it on Twitter for
Mhm.
the first time, I called it a masterpiece. I stand by that. I think it's the thoughtfulness, the beauty. Being a father of young kids myself, I just, I was touched by it, and just seeing like where you've
Mhm.
evolved over the last year is just really, really cool to see. But before we get into that piece, why don't you give anyone who might be newer to your art a little bit of your background and
Yeah.
how you started on Nifty Gateway and where we're going.
Yeah. It's a interesting story that kind of starts off with just my upbringing. I grew up in LA, product of Southern California, in a little city called Diamond Bar. So shout out to Diamond Bar. But yeah, I just kind of was a normal kid growing up. I loved basketball and NBA, but my mother was really focused on studies and making sure I did well academically in school. So I didn't really have that much opportunity to do art. As a passion when I was in high school. But so I went to a good school. I did well, and the kind of the natural progression for an Asian American at that time is either you become a doctor or a lawyer or you're a business person. And I didn't want to become a doctor because I hate blood. Lawyer, I was just not too excited about that path either. So I just decided to become a business person. And so I studied econ in college. That was my major. I did one graphics arts, graphic design class that was basically at the beginning of like kind of Photoshop and doing these things. And so I dabbled a little bit here and there. But after I graduated, I kind of got the job that I wanted to get, which was in investment banking and doing finance and working for Lehman Brothers, which since then has collapsed and started the whole mortgage loan crisis in 2009. Um, but I wasn't a part of that, so the feds, please don't come after me. Um, but kind of going from there, I just had a feeling in my stomach that this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing for the rest of my life. And financially, I was secure, and I could have been comfortable for the rest of my life had I gone on that path. But there was just something tugging at my heart, saying that what, this is not what you're meant to be doing for the rest of your life. And so I came to a crossroads after doing about finance for 4 years, and was just like, what, I have to try something else. And my parents are first generation immigrants from Korea. My dad went to one of the top schools. It's called Yonsei, one of the top universities in Korea. But then he came over to America, not knowing any English, starting all over and working at a junkyard and just trying to do what he could to survive and to provide for us. And so that entrepreneurial spirit is something that lives within me pretty deeply. And so I was just like, okay, I'm gonna try to go off on my own, start my own business. But I bought into a restaurant franchise as a gourmet burger franchise. 'Cause at the time, everybody was into trying to make the elevated burger, and so my wife, we were then engaged at the time, um, we decided to just kind of try it out. And so I moved to San Diego. We gave it our all, and at the end of the day, it just didn't work out financially. I think the economy kind of caught up to us, and it just didn't work out. And so that was kind of the darkest period of, I think, my life, as far as my career is concerned, especially because my family had invested everything that they owned. My parents lost their home. I lost everything, and we were just in this place where it was hard. It was really a struggle, and it was during this times when I was trying to find an outlet to figure out how to just um, get my mind off the stress, because I was working about 100-hour weeks at the end of the restaurant because we had three at the time. And I was just driving between the three, working 100 hours, trying to manage them, trying to keep everything afloat. And I just started to write, because I was like, maybe I can use some of this creative energy and write a screenplay and maybe try to become a television writer. And so I got connected to some people who were in the industry at the time, and they were telling me the road, and it's a long road, and any career you want to do well, it's a long path. And I didn't have that time because at that point I was in my early 30s, and I just got married. I don't have time to be an intern for 2 years and then work as a staff writer for how many years. And so I just I just kind of was at a loss on what I was going to do. And then fortuitously at the that that Christmas, I think so it was 2013. I went to a Christmas party. Sorry if this is all long-winded, but
No, this is
um,
good.
yeah, yeah. So I went to a Christmas party which had a white elephant gift exchange, and so a lot of people brought the gifts that they didn't want from their home. Nobody, was allowed to pay any money for the gifts. So one of the gifts that somebody brought was this brand new DeLorean Lego set. Um, and I was like, I love Back to the Future. This was still one of my favorite movies, especially part two. Part three, not as much. Um, but I brought it home, and everybody was really, really bagging on me at that party, saying, "Oh my God, you got the shit gift. Why are you taking that home? That's ridiculous." And it was like, "You're such a kid," or whatever. And so I brought it home because I loved it. And the next day I was looking at the box, and it was Christmas Eve. And on the back of the box, I learned that it was part of this program that Lego had called Lego Ideas, which is you create your own design for anything as just a regular civilian. And when you upload your design to the website and you get 10,000 votes, they'll consider making that kit as something they'll sell to the public. And this DeLorean happened to be a kit that a man from Japan had designed. He got the votes, and this was what I was holding in my hand. And oh my God, it just blew me away reading that. And I was like, oh, something in me that I always had from when I was a kid. I just had this sense of creativity and thinking of ideas that I feel like nobody's ever seen before. And that thing just really kicked into overdrive at that moment. And I was thinking about what I want to make something. What do I love, or haven't I seen before that could be in Lego form? And just Lego Jordans popped in my mind, Air Jordans, because I was a big Jordan fan. I got my first pair when I was like 9 years old, and I always tell the story. It was kind of like the one shoe my mom would get me, and then I would have to wear it for like a couple of years until my foot is either sticking out or the sole is like ground to zero. Um, so I was always growing up, watching Jordan, loving Jordan. And so I just did a quick Google search. Nobody had made a Lego Jordan before. And so you, I was like, I'm going to make it. How do I make it? I can't buy all these bricks and just make it, because Lego bricks are, one, they're really expensive, and two, I don't know how many pieces I need. And so I looked online, and I found out Lego actually was giving away this free computer program, which is really simple and rudimentary, that I think is meant for kids to use to just build things and just show their friends. And so I took this program, and I just started trying to use it to build this Jordan. And it's a very simple program when I say it. Um, so it was a struggle, and I just spent the next 3 or 4 months. I don't say, actually, it might have been up to 6 months, just building this first Lego Jordan, which was the Jordan 11, which is one of the most famous Jordans. And after 6 months, I finished the creation, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I didn't have social media at the time. I was kind of like one of those old school guys where, like, if you know me, you know me, we'll talk. I don't have to be on social media and this artificial form of communication, what I felt like was back in the day. So I didn't have Instagram, I didn't have Twitter, but I was like, okay, I want to show this to the world. I feel like people will like it, and it'll resonate with sneakerheads and people who are into urban culture and basketball. And so I was asking my wife, and she had social media at the time, and she was kind of growing a following. And she was like, no, you know what? It's Friday, it's Flashback Friday. People are posting pictures about their past. It's going to get lost. So just, hold off, just wait. And then every time I would suggest a new day, she was like, okay, it's this day. It's this day. I'm like, damn, it's never going to be the day. So I think at like 2 a.m. on like a Tuesday, I just posted it. I created an Instagram. And the next day I woke up, and it was like viral. It went all over the place with like sneaker blogs and Hypebeast. And that thus started the journey from that low place to now finding this outlet, and then now being able to have a place where I can just share my passion for sneakers and for Legos. And so it was that path for a while, and I got some commissions to build the physical Legos. And so that was a whole nother thing, because when I had designed the original one, it was simply just for the outside of it to be not really made into an actual, physical Lego sculpture. So people were like asking, "Can we buy it? Can I buy it? I want to buy it." And I was like, "Sure." And then so it was basically going back to the drawing board and redesigning like everything that I had already created so that it would actually be a physical piece that wouldn't like just crumble into pieces, literally. Um, so, but yeah, I was
That's
doing that,
yeah,
and then
like
from there, yeah, yeah,
oh, sorry. No, I just want to say, like, that's so awesome.
yeah,
Like, before we get too far ahead, it's like, the
yeah,
jumping ahead a little bit, but then I want to come back and keep going. Like, it was touching to me to
yeah.
now know that DeLorean story because one of your
Hmm.
Nifty Gateway drops was inspired by the hoverboard and the Jordans and the
Yeah,
DeLorean, and so it like came
yeah,
full circle. But
yeah,
please keep
yeah.
keep going on that part of the journey.
Yeah, so it was around this time when I was discovering then, okay, I want to render this, and so there was a couple programs that were connected to some of these Lego programs that I was using, like POV Ray, and so simple things that I had no idea how to use, that I just was basically going through Google and learning how to render, and step by step figuring this out, and I was doing that, and then just making little scenes, whether it was pop culture related, whether it was sneaker related, whether it was a play on the name of the shoe, and I would create, whether it's a Jordan 5 grape, and I would make it into like a grapevine and make all the shoes look like they're on a grapevine, and pumping just these really simple, animation, not they were, I'm sorry, not animation, stills that were 3D renders. And I was doing that for a while as well, making posters and doing what I could, but obviously financially I wasn't able to support my family with this. And so um, I was just continuing to try to evolve to figure out how to do that. And then comes early 2020 when I get an email from Tommy Kimmelman, from obviously Nifty Gateway, and
Shout out
he
to
mentions
Tommy.
how he's, shout out to Tommy, big shout out. He mentions that he is at this company that's starting up called Nifty Gateway. They're going to be a platform for selling NFTs, and we are really interested in speaking with you. And it was just kind of this email that I get versions of all the time that are most of the time trash, you know. And but something about this kind of struck me, and so as I was doing a little bit more research, I had no idea what cryptocurrency really was. I had Bitcoin, I knew what that was just from what people speak of in culture and the zeitgeist, but I didn't really know anything about blockchain and how it worked and what NFTs were going to be. So I just kind of did a basic dive on Google and learned what it was. And I was like, oh, okay, this still sounds a little shady. But when I did some research on, I'm sorry, on Nifty Gateway, obviously they were owned by Gemini and started by the Winklevoss twins. And so from there, I was like, okay, at least they seem pretty legit. Let me just give this a shot. What it's, what's the harm? So we got on a phone call. Everything kind of worked out from there. I decided to kind of be one of the first artists to drop. And so that first set of NFTs I created ultimately became the first ever sneaker NFTs. And still just all stills, no animation because I had no idea how to do that yet. And but the ball just started rolling from there. And obviously then we hit the March timeframe of 2021, and Grimes and all these huge things happening, and
We don't need to talk
some
about
cash
we don't need to
grabs.
talk about that period.
The dark days, but at the same time not, because then I guess the world finds out what an NFT is. And but yeah, I'd done about 3 or 4 drops before then, and the progression from there was I just started to try to, oh, all right, let me see if I can animate this. And so then that gets me into Blender, and then figuring how to use that, and so that's just kind of the technical progression, and fast forward now to where we get to where we are now is just like as an artist, I've always wanted to communicate my vision and my passions, and I feel like I was doing that with Lego, and sneakers. But to me, those are cool, but it doesn't really reflect the deeper parts of who I am and the message that I want to send, and who I feel like I want my children to know, and so as an artist. So but at the same time, having been done so many drops with Nifty Gateway, with Legos and with Jordans, it was a fear that I had. If I step away from this, how much support am I going to really get? And now this is a financial thing where I'm trying to provide for my family, and so is that a risk I'm willing to take? So that was always a struggle that I was battling with as I'm doing these drops,
Right.
that just are sneaker related.
You
Um,
should have you should
but
have done some NFT Yeezys. That would have made me happy.
yeah, I mean, I did the Nike one. I didn't do the Adidas one, but yeah, that would have probably been a good direction. But so fast forward again, the last, I don't know, 6 months, I just really decided to take this leap of faith, and I reference Micah a lot in what he's done with Aku, because I met with him. Actually, we had Korean barbecue in LA, in August of last year. And I came away from that meeting really inspired by what he's doing for not only his character, but his culture, and what he's doing for NFT artists in general, especially artists of color.
Right.
And so I was really inspired by that. And I came out of that meeting feeling like, this thing that had been pinging on my heart to just really try to take a step outside of my comfort zone. I really got to follow that. And so that's where the genesis of this idea became, of this Chia character. And as I really literally came out of that meeting, I was thinking of my daughter, who is now one and a little over 1 years old, but she was less, obviously, she was like a newborn at the time, or almost a newborn. Um, Actually, no, she was not a newborn at the time. Sorry, she was still really young, and I just was thinking, I want her to grow up to be able to know, uh, that you know there is something for her that shows her represented, that she could really feel like she connected to, and that's where the idea of this character came. And then also really, dialoguing with my wife about this, and her story in being a woman of color, and the struggles that she's gone through, especially now with Stop Asian Hate and all the things that are popping up around that, and just the rise of racism in this country in general. There are a lot of aspects of her life that have really been upsetting to me, as we've been kind of together for 16 years. And so I wanted to incorporate these things into a story, and the idea popped into my mind of creating, well, what if I made a female Asian American character that becomes the first woman to play in the NBA? And thus started this process then of developing this character with my wife, figuring out kind of the artistic vision on what we wanted to have it be, and the world that we want her to live in, and to create, and the story we want to show. And so that process took months, and obviously now we're at the place where it's the culmination and hopefully the start of something great. And with this Genesis piece that's dropping on Sunday, and yeah, I mean, that's the long answer, um, to how we got to where we are. Um, but
It's
yeah.
it's a beautiful journey. There's a couple things, and I want to spend a few minutes on the piece because it is. I mean, as I said, it's
Hmm.
breathtaking and the quality. But
Hmm.
a couple things that you mentioned that I think are important that people should think about is
Hmm.
the fact that you were successful in business. And X Copy has this tweet, and
Hmm.
every like 6 months I retweet it, but it's like, how do you become
Hmm.
an artist? And it's like, decide you're an artist,
Hmm.
and there, you've made it, right? And like,
Yeah.
so many people are afraid
Yeah.
to explore their
Mm.
creativity and take a chance. But
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
successful in business, and you took a chance, and you took another
Hmm.
chance, and took another chance, and now you're
Yeah.
you're you're able to create this world that you're building with. And Micah's coming on next week. Shout out to Micah. Shout out to Aku. Like,
Shout
great,
out to
amazing,
Micah. Big shout out.
amazing project. And
Yeah.
now here you are, through this journey, creating this. I'm looking at it, and I can't pull it up on screen because Twitter will get all messed up. But
Hmm.
I put the tweet in the chat, and
Hmm.
if I go full screen, it won't. But just having the silhouette of this
Yeah.
character, and she's got Jordan, and she's got her name taped
Hmm.
over it, and
Yeah.
just I
Yeah.
and it's a modest home, and the dog, and just the polish. It
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
it feels like a Pixar
Hmm.
movie. And I just look at it, and I look at my
Yeah.
kids and what excites them, and just I can't.
Yeah.
And you got the Lego Jordan to bring it
Yeah.
full circle.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's a masterpiece. And
Yeah.
it sounds like you're
Yeah.
going to be building this world.
Yeah.
probably a little bit
Hmm.
similar to what Aku's doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's incredible. And so it launches on Sunday.
No. Yes, it launches on Sunday, and yeah, just to kind of go back to kind of what you were mentioning a little bit earlier, that taking that leap of faith, taking that step, I try to communicate as much as possible to people who ask me, oh, do you have any advice as I'm trying to become an artist, or I am an artist and I'm trying to make it, and um, I really feel in my heart that uh, just really find your voice, find what you're passionate about, find that voice. Uh, don't be driven by what you feel like people want to see or what you feel like people would buy, because, and honestly, I fall into that trap all the time. So I'm not saying that I'm better than that, but I have to constantly remind myself of that to stay true to my thoughts and my visions and my passions, and not be driven by what I feel like people are going to say about it. And once you find that voice, and if and in whatever medium it is, you work hard, you hone your craft, you build your skill, but you don't let go of that dream, because if you get led down a path where you feel like, whether it's a different career path that you feel like your parents want you to do, or it's something that you feel like, you have to do for whatever reason, I am honestly a believer, if you stick with what you're passionate about, and in the long run, you'll end up making way more money doing that than anything that you would have done before. Now, that's not to say that you have to do something in the meantime to pay the bills. So do your hustle, do whatever you need to do. Ideally, find a way to incorporate your art in whatever that hustle might be until you get to the larger place that you want to get to. But that's kind of the short story of what I would want to share with my daughter and my son, and anybody out there who wants to become an artist as well, because it's hard. I understand it's hard to take that step, but it's worth it in the end. It is worth it.
I couldn't agree more. My son, even though he doesn't like it right now,
Hmm.
I grew up wanting to be an animator for Walt Disney, and I would
Oh
doodle
wow.
nonstop, and my path led me
Hmm.
down a different direction, computer science and business and
Hmm.
all that stuff. But
Hmm.
I make my son, not every day, but as many days as I can in a row. Spend 10 minutes just drawing, whether it's on the iPad or just
Yeah.
drawing there, and try to instill the habit of
Yeah.
what people does with the everydays, just to keep.
Yeah.
Sports is
Yeah. Yeah.
important, balance is important, and so I
Yeah.
just I just
Yeah.
encourage everyone to keep doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree, because in that way will find his channel, his path, and as a father, I think it's great that you're trying to do that, and kind of guide him in whatever direction he wants to go.
Absolutely. And one of the things that excites me about, you mentioned Nifty Gateway, and you mentioned,
Hmm.
the March timeframe, and a lot of, it's funny because we
Yeah.
did a drop with the Bloom team, and shout out to Hannes and No Creative and Tina and all the
Hmm.
participants of that. But they were a group of
Yeah.
artists that were super successful in their own right, on Super
Yeah.
Rare and Maker's Place. But and they had this they
Yeah.
had their bitter taste about Nifty Gateway, and they finally, Nifty
Hmm.
Gateway is a rare company that made
Hmm.
mistakes. They were learning. We were all learning at the same time
Yeah.
in this Nifty space, and
Yeah.
everything was going parabolic. But what they did is they
100%.
reset, and now I
Hmm.
think Nifty Gateway, if we want NFTs to be mainstream, Nifty Gateway is the
Yeah.
best platform to onboard people in the world. And so,
Yeah.
shout out to Tommy,
Yeah.
Nifty Gateway, and all of them too.
Shout out. Yeah, shout out to Duncan, and everybody that's working hard. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and honestly, I wouldn't have probably done it any differently, because from the business perspective, you know, I brought this up at the time because there were some people out complaining about prices, and I'm hearing it on the artist end, right? And I was just kind of making this point that, well, whatever career you're in, whatever job you're doing, imagine that there's an opportunity that presents itself to you where there's so much demand, everybody is very interested in what you're doing, and you are trying to provide for your own family as well. Wouldn't you not do the same thing and try to maximize whatever potential that is? Albeit, yes, there was a lot of backlash and a lot of things that came later on, but that that thing I don't fault them for.
No.
And in the aftermath of it, they did what they could to hire enough people to support what the platform was doing, and then obviously making the change to not have like so many people drop on one day and all that. So they definitely course corrected, but I don't fault them for what was at the time. I think just something that was unprecedented for everybody, and especially for artists to be able to be recognized and then get paid what there should have been paid for hundreds of years, thousands of years, if we're thinking about it honestly. um, so that's kind of my perspective on it. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. So back to Chia
Hmm.
chapter one
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
What are the
Yeah.
drop mechanics? How do I make sure I get mine?
Yeah, it's going to be open edition, $723. My thought is I just want to try to get as many people on board. It's going to kind of be the entryway into the Chia universe and access to the future drops and other rewards in the future. And yeah, I'm really excited. I've been sharing a lot of details about the piece on my social in the last few days, just really honing in on some of the things that I included to be able to reference things in her life and also things of um, to come as well. And that's really important to me to not just present something that's really beautiful, but also something that has meaning and depth. And so yeah, and that goes to just really also making sure that um, people understand that I'm not trying to say that the NBA is better than the WNBA or anything like that. It's not that kind of thing. And I just want to be able to show something if my daughter wants to become an NBA player, that it's possible. And this is an example of it, albeit it's an artistic representation, but I just want to be able to provide something like that. And so that and just different aspects for identity as an Asian American and being half Japanese, half Korean, which my wife is half Japanese, half Korean, and so incorporating different things of culture and exposing people who might not be that open or have that many friends or people that they know of that are Asian, to kind of give a little bit of a glimpse as much as possible. I mean, obviously it's a 15-second video, but at the same time, it's really important to me as an Asian American artist to be able to show um, my culture and who I am, and to get people to really, yeah, just be exposed at the end of the day.
I love it. And we were talking to
Hmm.
Ross, and you and I were talking about this beforehand. One of the things that's
Hmm.
important for me is if NFT culture is going to properly represent the culture of NFTs, we can't continue
Hmm.
to be a team of four white guys from Texas. And we've added a few members to the
Yeah.
team, but I think that
Yeah.
it's important
Yeah.
for us all to just be observant and be open
Mm.
minded to everything.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
I'm inspired by it's. I don't think it's about the WNBA or the NBA. It's about a little girl
Hmm.
who's a fan of the greatest baseball or basketball player of all, and he
Mm.
was a pretty good baseball player for a
Hmm.
minute, but
Yeah.
basketball player of all time. And
Yeah. Yeah.
to bring in just the little pieces of the childhood. Like I see,
Hmm.
it's a modest home. It's not like this
Yeah.
futuristic. You see all these little
Mm.
details that to me, when I
Yeah.
look at the puppy and everything else, it just really brought it. Even though
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in that culture, I felt that
Yeah.
home was a home that I would have been in as a child, and I really want to just
Yeah.
say how impressed I am with the attention to detail you've put in
Yeah.
this piece of work.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really important as we were crafting the visual to have it be a humble apartment because, a lot of the immigrant experience is like that. It's just trying to survive in a one-bedroom studio or apartment with, three or four of your family members and sleeping on the ground and eating what you could. And also an aspect of this is like her parents aren't home right now. They're working, right? And so she's just a kid uh, stumbling on this love of basketball, watching this replay of the last shot. When if her parents were more secure and what financially, that they would be there with her, and well, doing something
Right.
else, maybe perhaps, but so I wanted to capture this feel of this humble apartment that yeah, it's not some super polished, like you mentioned, like futuristic vision, which there's nothing wrong with that, but this is the vibe that I wanted to capture, the essence of what I wanted to capture of this girl and this true genesis of this seed that gets planted in her of this love of this game, it came from this very humble place. And so yeah, I really, that's why the look and scene is kind of made to be that way, and the TV and just different things that I just tried to make sure to incorporate to show that aspect of just a humble beginning.
That's so incredible. And I want to say that I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably going to pick up a few more than one, just because
Oh,
I like how these things go, and I think that you've priced it fairly for the quality of the art.
mhm,
And when you see so
mm,
many,
I appreciate that.
if we go in, yeah, absolutely. Well, if you look at other drops out that are just
Mm,
going on right now, it's like 1 ETH, it's half an ETH, and I think
mm,
723 for an inspiration. And you just look at for me it looks like a Pixar movie. And I
mm,
think that it's important. And I want to say thank you again. You and I've chatted offline a few times, and this is our
mhm.
first time together, but would
Yeah.
love to have you back as we start to see this world get built out, and keep
Mhm,
talking about these topics, and just want to say thank you for
mhm.
everything.
Yeah, no, I've always appreciated your guys' support. It's like, yeah, you've been around since day one for me almost. And so, um, I wouldn't be here without people like yourself and the Nifty Culture audience. And so, that's considered family to me. So I'm always going to be back as long as you guys will have me until
Hey,
I'm old
open.
and gray and
I'm going great right here. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank all the collectors that have been on this journey with me so far. Um, yeah, I just really am excited about this next chapter and you guys journeying with me. I'm also excited for anybody new who has been piqued, has their interest piqued by what this piece is and what this piece could mean. I'm dedicated to making sure that we see this through and that it can be something great and big and also something meaningful and something that's going to raise a lot of questions in people's minds, but also provide a lot of answers, hopefully as well. And so I'm excited. And again, I'm grateful for you and for the NFT culture family.
That is awesome. And I can't wait to watch this. I'm rooting for you. I'm going to be retweeting the heck out of this on Sunday. Sunday, April 10th, 723, open
Mhm.
edition. This is the start of a new world, a new set of art from the amazing Tom Yu. Tom, thank you so much for everything. I can't wait to see you grow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, brother.
Bye.